Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. It's a nice brisk day here in Kiev, Ukraine, and we have some interesting topics to talk about tonight. So if you're new around here, this is where we talk about complex, metaphysical, supernatural, spiritual subjects, which is definitely some people's cups of tea. Maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but for those of us plugged into these subjects and who study these areas, hopefully these videos are of some benefit to you. So, today we're talking about the subject of spirit guides, and more precisely, where the heck are our spirit guides? How come many of us do not have experiences with them or even get a contradictory information at times? And this is particularly relevant to myself because I have dealt with this strange issue as well. And so this is a patron suggested video. So people who are patrons of Afterlife Topics, we can always have a one-on-one dialogue for whatever purposes. And if you have videos that you want me to talk about, then that is the best way, is to sign up as a patron at the Patreon page or the afterlifetopics.com Afterlife University page, as well as, without even becoming a patron. What really helps out this channel is if you go down, hit that subscribe button, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell. All of that keeps this whole thing going. Couldn't do all this without support from viewers like you, so thank you very much. So, to talk about tonight's topic. So, spirit guides it's almost one of these, I want to say, almost cliche terminologies, because we hear about it so much without much of a clear understanding of exactly who and what they are. In fact, it's kind of a new age trope at this point. If you're having problems in life, just consult your spirit guide, pray to your spirit guide, look to your spirit guide for answers. Now, to be fair, some people have very good relationships with what we would call a spirit guide, whereas I think a lot of us do not have any kind of contact at all. And what's interesting about this is that even for somebody like myself who does astral projection work, I've had very minimal interaction with what could be considered a spirit guide, and yet I've received from different areas of information the idea that I in fact do have not just one but multiple spirit guides from different levels. And so how does that work? Pretty weird stuff. Speaking of weird stuff, this is some kind of strange spiky fruit that's growing here in Ukraine, and it's like some kind of like little alien plant, and it's super sharp. So if I put my finger on it like this, it's actually a little bit painful. Pretty weird. Anyway, where was I? So for me personally, I first had an experience with what we would call a spirit guide when I was in a hospital in Thailand. And so I had a broken leg, and it was quite devastating. I was in just unbelievable amounts of pain, and I had to have surgery performed in a town called Sriracha along the coast south of Bangkok, and kind of a little bit of an off the map area. I was terrified. I thought that my life was over because I didn't think this would be a very quality hospital. It was a government hospital, and I had to have emergency surgery. And so the surgery lasted 10-11 hours. And when I woke up, I was quite all right. And then I had to stay in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And that first night, I fell asleep and had an astral experience with these two Egyptian women who were kind of like twin sisters. And they pretty much told me with no qualms about it that they were my spirit guides. And talking to a medium, I later learned that it does have a link to an ancient Egyptian lineage of some kind that's in relation to me. So these spirit guides told me, again with no uncertain terms, that they were going to make sure I didn't die of an infection while I was in the hospital. So I'm obviously quite thankful for that. Not my time to go. Maybe if they weren't looking out for me, then I would have died of an infection. Now, what's curious about this incident, despite the fact this always stayed with me, I even was able to verify some information that they told me, because they told me that they were once worshipped as goddesses of the Nile River back when the Egyptians worshipped the crocodile. And so I later researched into a place called Crocodilopolis in Egypt on the Nile, which was an actual city where it would seem that these sisters had been worshipped as goddesses, and they were still in existence today, and apparently operating, as guides looking out for little old me. So, despite the fact I never forgot this experience, what's curious is that I never had an experience with them again. So, with all my astral experiences, that was a one-shot deal. I never saw them again. And I've always known they're around, but there has not been an effort to make contact with me. Now, when I spoke to a very, very powerful mental medium, I asked her to patch through to these guides, and allegedly through this medium who got like 100 other things right, so I don't have a reason to doubt her information. Basically, that these guides existed on such a level so far above and beyond the level we're at now, the level that the astral world is at, that their energy is so powerful. If they were to even manifest close to this world in the astral environment, for instance, the amount of energy that would be produced by their manifestation would actually kill everybody within like a 50-kilometer radius. So it would be like a nuclear bomb going off if they were to come down and try to manifest near to me here in this plane. Very unusual. Now, they also, during that session with the medium, allegedly they were saying that mediums are not a good source of information, and that even though I am not in contact with them, it's possible to train my mind to communicate with them in a binary fashion with yes or no answers, and that this is one way to communicate with them. And I did ask a bit about my relationship to them, and apparently there was a familial relationship that dates back to ancient Egypt. So I've taken all that basically just to accept that, okay, this makes a lot of sense to me. Those are my spirit guides, even though I have virtually no contact with them. I guess the reason I don't have any contact with them is because there's an energetic barrier, because they're too advanced, too powerful to be able to make easy contact with us on this side. And so I've left it at that. And I do think that this similar situations could also account for why people do not meet up with their spirit guides as well. That there's something going on with the energetic differences between souls on different levels of existence. And maybe it is like this kind of incompatibility problem, right? So what adds another twist to this whole thing is that this same medium has told me very specifically that I have another spirit guide, or a more involved spirit guide, who's an Aboriginal Australian. Now, again, this medium got everything else right, so why wouldn't this be correct? But this has puzzled me, because at least I had an experience with these Egyptians. I have never, in all my astral experiences or dream contacts or anything else, I've never been in contact or heard from or received a message from an Aboriginal Australian. And this left me very confused, and I am still confused about this, because, again, there's no Aboriginal Australians. I've never had an experience. Why am I supposed to believe that somebody like this is around? And then the other issue is that many who claim that they have guides, or when they're told they have a guide, they may be thinking, how come this guide has never come to me at all in my life? How come I've never received help when I really needed help? And I don't think there's a clear answer for any of this, because, again, some people do have relationships with what we could call spirit guides, but almost, it could very well be that for a lot of us, for a lot of guides, maybe there's a hands-off policy going on. I'm just speculating here, but maybe there's just a policy of, okay, they're doing pretty well. I'll let them do whatever it is that they need to do, and I'm not going to interfere so much in their decision making, because there is always that element of a free will. Think about it. They don't want to interrupt people's free will. They don't want to make people make decisions based upon an action that they took, because this is this would excuse me, this would be karmically bad for the spirit guide. It would mess up their karma to be interrupting our free will in such a way. So they don't want to do that unless it's absolutely necessary. And maybe, for some people, some people need guidance more than others. Maybe I don't need that much guidance because, I don't know, I kind of have a lot of stuff figured out already. So it's really difficult to say. I also think that we need to consider just what a spirit guide is. Is everybody assigned one spirit guide, or could there be multiple? Could there be many, many, many different souls who are all surrounding one person? Are they all? Does everybody have just one? Or could it be 10, a dozen, 100? We don't know. We don't know what classifies somebody as a spirit guide. Could we say that somebody who basically has a deceased family member and that the family member is watching over them, can we say that they're a spirit guide? Because I don't see why not. I think I think the definition would still be very much similar as that. So when we talk about your spirit guide, maybe we should talk about how many you have. And logically, we could assume if you have a close family member who passes away, in a way that they are a spirit guide as well. And then it gets really complicated because I feel like when my mom passed away, I was her spirit guide from this plane. I was going to help her on that side, appearing where she was and helping her along with the process of what she was going through, and then coming back to this world. And so that was it was flipped around. I was in reverse. So what is a spirit guide? It's just somebody who watches over somebody else from a different vantage point, a different dimension. So I suppose that's all it is. And in this case, it's a very broad terminology. So finally, if you're not having any contact with a spirit guide, well, consider all these factors. Consider maybe they don't want to make contact because they don't want to interrupt your free will. Consider the idea that maybe just as somebody can have multiple spirit guides, maybe you don't really have a spirit guide, which sounds very morbid, doesn't it? But it's maybe not a bad thing. Maybe folks on the other side think, well, this person has their SHIT together so well that we don't need to help this person that much. We're going to allocate our resources toward other people who really do need our help. So that's a possibility also. So there's many possibilities. Overall, what I do recommend is just the usual. Find a qualified, reputable medium who can help you connect to that side. Develop your astral projection abilities. Develop your kind of lucid dreaming abilities as well, which is kind of these both topics merge together a bit. Meditate. You can even practice a bit of ITC or EVP. Various different methods to make contact with that side and develop that, and then see who comes through, because maybe the reason your spirit guide hasn't come through is just because you haven't made that proper connection for them to be able to do it. Well, that's it. This is Cyrus. I'm the author of books like The Afterlife and Beyond. So if you like some of these topics, then I encourage you to go grab a copy of this book. It came out last year, and there's a lot in here about, you guessed it, the afterlife, and many more subjects as well. And especially if you like my first book, Understanding Life After Death, you'll probably like this book. You also get involved with us at the Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics Facebook group. Very big group, approaching 10,000 members right now. So always big discussions going on, sometimes fights, but that happens in big groups, doesn't it? Can't really avoid that. What else? You can, again, sign up as a patron. So if you want to get involved in the classes, the VIP groups, behind the scenes for interviews, request custom videos, one-on-one coaching with me, all that, then that's $30 a month patrons. You can do that at afterlifetopics.com/university, or just click Afterlife University on the webpage, or also you can do it at the Patreon page. All that's in the links down below. All right, thanks for, again, helping sponsor all this. It's a lot of work doing the management of the groups and doing the videos, working on the projects, doing the interviews, all of this. It's basically, it is my part-time, some weeks full-time job, so any help is always appreciated. and hopefully we'll keep getting more information out there about these spiritual topics to the masses, to help people learn about these things from a more objective, more rational point of view, utilizing critical thinking but without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, still understanding that these things are real, but we have to analyze them critically and logically instead of just kind of falling into the trap of believing anything that gets thrown our way. That's what we do here. That's what I'm all about, and probably that's what you're about because you're watching this video. Anyway, I will see you guys on the next topic.